6 needed, and that could be the winning hit. It is. It's 6 for Lewis Gregory, and Somerset have won by 6 wickets. Tremendous win for Somerset, chasing down 194 to win, with Will Smead leading the way.
Hello there, this is Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd. On the eve of the new county championship season, I am joined first of all by Dan Kingdom. Dan, how's it going? Have you wintered well, and how excited are you for Friday?
Yep, good winter, thanks. Yep, very excited for Friday. Hopefully the weather holds.
Yes, it's not looking great. Also with me is Peter Wanless, president of the club. Peter, you all ready to receive your Nottinghamshire guests on Friday?
I am, yes. Thank you very much. We've got some guests coming down, ready to give them a warm welcome, but not be too accommodating on the pitch.
Good stuff. And finally with us today is the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset, who will also be receiving a guest in Dave Bracegirdle down from Nottinghamshire in the commentary box. And I hope he's got a brand new Nottinghamshire tracksuit, Gibbo, because I've been going on at you for years and years. You need to follow in Dave's footsteps and get your own Somerset training wear.
I work for the BBC.
How you doing?
I'm very, very fond of Somerset County Cricket Club, but I do actually work for the BBC.
Good stuff. Well, shall we have a little? I'm trying to think what we've missed since we've been on. Shall we just start with the pre-season? Obviously, that was all went a bit cock a hoop with the limited skirmishes that are going on in the Middle East at the moment. So they alternative arrangements were made. They went to Desert Springs, had a 2-day game against Yorkshire, had a 2-day inter whichever squad game at Taunton, followed by a friendly against Glamorgan. I caught most of it via the stream, and I went up on Sunday. Peter, I gather you were there for a couple of days as well.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from being bloody cold, it was a reasonable workout, I thought.
Yeah, it was. I watched most of the first day, and about halfway through the second day, I confess, it felt a bit like people were going through the motions, and at least I hope they were going through the motions, because we're going to need to have a much more of a kind of competitive edge on Friday. And I thought, you know what, this is quite cold and uncomfortable, and actually it's slightly ruining my sense of anticipation and excitement about the real stuff starting. Came home midway through the second day, and I gave it a miss on that very cold day when you were present. I did manage to catch a little bit of you doing a bit of practice live stream, though.
Yeah, I think me and Ben were just mainly sort of chatting about all the memberships and the various days for the one-day cup that were coming up over the summer, rather than concentrating too much on the action. A couple of points sort of raised for me is Archie Vaughan and Josh Thomas opened in Spain. This time it was Josh Thomas and Tom Cadmore opened in both innings in this match. So I don't know if that gives us any potential clue as to where they're going. And it seemed that Cooper Associates County Ground pitches are sort of doing what they did last year. It looks green on the first morning, does a bit, and then it calms down. Look, things are very easy when Glamorgan were batting on that second day. And Jack Leach seemed to get a bit of turn out of it. Josh Thomas did get a few to turn as well. So hopefully Nick Pepper has maybe come up with the right formula to get a bit of spin over the next few days, Gibbo, because that's going to be the key, isn't it, if we're going to win our home games?
It certainly is, particularly early season. I mean, our seam attack is experienced, but lacks really a cutting edge these days. Without Matt Henry, without anyone with express pace. And Jack Leach, everyone will be looking to Jack Leach to take the wickets that he did last year and put in the overs that he did last year. I mean, he bowled superbly. But he needs to have the right sort of pitches to bowl on. And it was hard work. If you remember that game against Worcestershire, first game last season, when it just got flatter and flatter and flatter. And in 2 days, we couldn't bowl Worcestershire. 2 days and a bit, we couldn't bowl Worcestershire out. So, but I didn't pick up anything on Monday at the sort of pre-season media day to suggest
No.
that the pitches are going to be markedly different. I asked Jason Kerr about it, and he said, that there's a balance. They've got, Somerset have got a balanced attack, so they want something in it for their seamers as well as for Jack Leach. And hanging over it all is the sword of Damocles of points deduction if they go too far in the spin-friendly direction. And I think Jason said there is a sort of almost an inbuilt prejudice against pitches that spin. Counties get penalised for spinning pitches, it seems, much more often than they do for pitches that offer excessive seam movement to bowlers. So it's hard for Nick Pepper. He's got to find a balance, and let's hope this year he finds the right balance.
Absolutely. Dan, you of course would have enjoyed Eddie Byram's unbeaten 100.
I didn't actually watch any of that, to be honest.
Did you not? Oh my God. 100 unbeaten for Eddie. I mean, we're looking ahead to Friday now. The performance of this game, done and dusted. Yeah. Hammondby made 100 in the second innings. Abel made 80 odd. It was sort of it ended in quite sort of odd circumstances. Jack Leach looked like he was just got a bit lost and was wandering off towards the pavilion. Lewis Gregory charges down in his tracksuit and sliders, and next thing you know, they're all shaking hands. I suspect it was because it was creeping up towards 80 overs, and where in a conventional match you'd have been looking to take the second new ball, and none of Glamorgan's seamers particularly wanted to get warm in that freezing cold temperature and potentially do themselves a mischief by pulling a fetlock because it is so freezing cold, and then facing the likes of Asa Tribe and Kieran Carlson is no good to man nor beast when it comes to practice for the county championship. We didn't even get to see Eddie Byram's majestic leg spin before they all shook hands and went in and had a nice hot cup of cocoa and warmed themselves up.
Enjoyable as it was to see Eddie Byram get 100, James Drew dropped an absolute sitter before Byram had really got going, and TKC
Alfie
dropped another one,
Alfie.
which, and I mean that. I guess it's very cold and fielding out there, and the concentration isn't quite there.
Yeah,
that is true. But they really, that was disappointing. Because we're not used to seeing catches dropped. Certainly,
no, we're not.
Not seeing easy ones dropped. So we can't be having that this week coming.
Get them out of the way pre-season. That's my motto. That's what I would be advising. The ball that Alfie got Asa Tribe with was an absolute seed. That's what he's capable of, and I think he should be given the chance to do that this season. Feeds into question that I asked Sarge at the press conference on behalf of poor old Andy Cleve, who has been at Somerset CCC in virtually every social media post since October asking about the second overseas slot. You can go and listen to the press conference. It's on YouTube, but it was basically he said that the right candidate, a world-class candidate, wasn't available. If one does become available, i.e. Matt Henry, for example, their ears would prick up and they'd be in the hunt for him, but they want to give the youngsters a chance, and you can understand that given the lack of game time players like Ned Leonard have had, like Sonny Baker has had, and they've gone off to pastures new. Want that happening with Alfie Ogborn and JT Langridge.
When I asked Jason about that in my interview with him, he was rather more positive. I said, "Are you looking for an overseas quick?" And he said, "Yes, definitely." It isn't as if they've given up yet. They just haven't found the right one. But if someone does miraculously emerge from the woodwork, then Somerset will be in the market for him. But
so what they're saying is they don't want to put a run of the mill, just get anybody in ahead of an Alfie Ogborn type. That, I think, is what Sarge was saying. Oh, the president left us. I'm sure he'll be back in it. I can understand that. I think that's fair enough.
Brett Randall.
I do understand.
Brett Randall would be, talk about
Brett 5 in 5 Randall.
He never looked much like taking 5 in 5 for us.
He didn't look like he would take 5 in 5 games, let alone 5 in 5 balls for us. But anyway, it is difficult coming over sort of the end. It is difficult coming over the end of a season and trying to get yourself into a team that's been together for the best part of 5 months or whatever. and sort of being a newcomer into that group, that is quite difficult. And I think we always shouldn't be too harsh when judging September overseas, unless they're really VJ. Dan, you did quite a lovely thread about the overseas second overseas bowler situation. If you're not on Twitter, do you want to quickly go the recap of that? Because I thought that was a really good read.
Yeah. After losing, Aldridge, Davey, Green, we don't have Matt Henry this year, and following our failure to acquire any new domestic signings except Josh Shaw, who has a pretty poor red ball record, it has to be said. Like, he averages 50 in Division 2 across the last couple of seasons, and I know that's probably partly because he's part of a generally poor side in Gloucestershire who've been
very, very poor side. I think really, really bad side. I think, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's probably
Terrible
not
side.
as bad as
play
that.
a pretty horrible ground. And right, let's stop it. Let's childish here. Be quiet.
He's probably not quite as bad as that, but like I just thought after failing to get any of the other guys who were available, because there was a few guys, mostly Gloucestershire players, a few guys from other counties, probably all better than Shaw. We didn't get any of them. We just got Shaw. So I thought, well, surely we're nailed on to sign 2 overseas pace bowlers. And we got Mig done early in the winter, got that business sorted. Great. But I find it astonishing that after all these months, we're now on the eve of the season and there's been no one else. Everyone knows that you need decent pace stocks to challenge for the title or to even have any success at all. We've got 8 pace bowlers, 9 if you include Kieran Roberts. 3 of those 9 haven't played any first-class cricket yet. Ogborn is still very inexperienced. He's played, I think, 3 first-class games for us. Obviously, I want to phase those guys in, but we don't want to be putting too much on them too soon. We don't want to be, worst case scenario, we don't want to be relying on them to, keep us up. Beyond those guys, we've got Shaw, who, as I've said, pretty poor red ball record. Jake Ball's 35. Pretorius is coming off an injury as well. He got, obviously, the injury he picked up with us, and he's hardly played all winter. His only cricket has been a few one-day games in South Africa in the last month or so. Obviously, Gregory has, obviously ongoing injury problems, doesn't always bowl. So we rely massively on Craig Overton being at his best, and we haven't won a county championship match without him since 2019. So I just, given all of that, all that together, I'm just surprised we've not signed anybody. And I know, yes, okay, we ideally want someone who's world class, but counties are capable of finding gems.
I think you said a lovely kind of phrase there, Dan, which you probably didn't realize. It says, you said we've not signed anybody because we don't want to go out and sign anybody.
Yeah.
It's the right candidate. I know Hampshire went out and got Jaden Seals.
That's what I was about to say. They don't have to be brilliant. They can be someone like Fergus O'Neill or Cody Youssef, who are under the radar. No one had really heard of them, but they've come into county cricket and done pretty well. So
Cody Youssef's going to Hampshire. Hampshire lost Michael Neser. They lost Jaden Seals, and they've now signed Cody Youssef.
I know. I'm just saying there are players like them out there, but we could have got Youssef potentially. Hampshire got there first, which is potentially a shame. I don't know. We probably didn't want him. We would have probably got him if we wanted him. But I just struggle to believe there's no one out there who could have added some value to our attack, because I just think I'm a little bit worried. We're a little bit thin going into the season. Given the various issues that I mentioned with most of the bowlers, and at our best, fine. We can take 20 wickets, but can we do it consistently? Can we do it? We've got 6 games in 7 weeks to start the season. Are we going to be able to win enough of those games to put us in a position to push for the title in the second half of the season? Because I'm less concerned once you get to the second half of the season, particularly as we've got 6 games in August and September after the One Day Cup, when hopefully spin will be more of a factor and Leach and Vaughan can hopefully win us a few games. But we've got to have a good start to the season. And, at the moment, I just don't know if we have the weaponry to do that.
I mean, there's 2 factors I'm sort of looking at now which are in Somerset's favour. Number 1 is obviously the best left-arm spinner in the country, who could potentially bowl you 30 overs a day in any conditions and go for 2 or 3 and over. Might not pick the wickets up, but you can rely on Jack Leach to do a job for you, whatever the conditions, whatever the weather, whatever the opposition. So that instantly takes a bit of pressure off your pace bowling attack. You got the Jack Leach factor. Another thing is our schedule at the moment. 3 games in 3 weeks and then a week off kind of gives you the opportunity to have a massive blast at those 3 games with your first choice attack, and then they can all go and put their feet up for the best part of 9 or 10 days before they've got to play again. So I think that's a real important factor as well. So I would not be surprised if we see somebody arrive after the Hampshire game at Utilita Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised if in that week somebody arrived, because you'll have had a look at Alfie. I assume they're going to play Alfie in at least 2 of these first 3 games after the way he bowled against Slam at the weekend. Craig is obviously a shoe-in. Miggy, you mentioned, coming off an injury, so is he fully fit for 3-4 day games in 3 weeks? Maybe not. Who knows? Lammer's bowled tidy enough against Glamorgan. He's been bowling a little bit more. Tom Abel says he's bowling a little bit more as well, and I rate Tom Abel as a lot more than a part-time bowler, Gibbo. I know you're a massive fan of Tom Abel, as we all are with his batting, but I think very, very underrated with the ball as well.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I hope to. He hasn't bowled for 2 seasons, had he? And will be. He's very useful seamer to have up your sleeve. If you want someone to break a partnership, he'd be your man.
He always moves the boys. Very, very good. Presented a very, very good seam. Always gave it a bit of wobble, so you feel like even if he's bowling at 80,
and
85%.
quicker than the batsmen often think as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't.
Peter,
I don't believe that Sarge, Jason are oblivious to the analysis which Dan has laid out, and I think the answer you got from Jason is exactly what I would give in the situation that we're in at the moment, because you've got to motivate the players that are on your books to believe in them and give them the opportunity to do their best. But other things being equal, I think like others, including Andy Cleve, I might have expected there to be another signing, and there hasn't been one, which leaves us with this potential risk if things don't go according to plan, or if 1 or 2 pick up an injury. Having said that, we've seen other counties already experiencing last-minute dropouts of one kind or another. I know the coaches are very hot on chemistry and culture and bringing people in who demonstrably add value to what we've already got and will fit with the team-based culture that has helped us be
so
successful. Yeah, no one's bigger than the team, sort of thing. Which is not everyone's cup of tea, but it's been quite important, I think, to our success for an extended period. So these are factors to sort of take into account. But yeah, I think I didn't expect, to be honest, personally, that we would be sitting here at the start of the season still with a overseas potential vacancy to fill. But there we are, as Jason said, and that you've kind of reiterated, just bringing someone in for the sake of it could be counterproductive, and there are all sorts of uncertainties. There were people being picked for franchise tournaments and so on, weren't there? We had to wait and see for how some of that was going. So yeah, point. I just think it's a point well made, and I haven't got a magic answer. There's not someone. I can't think of a bowler out there at the moment who's just twiddling their thumbs and thinking, well, why on earth aren't we signing them? It's having that kind of network and ability to unearth the next Fergus O'Neill, whoever it might be, isn't it?
I mean, I'm just looking at this the other way around. I mean, I can imagine there's furor about certain members that we haven't got an overseas bowler in, but then flipping that round, I can imagine some of the comments if we'd have brought in a Johnny Nobody just for the sake of it, the vitriol would have probably been twice as bad. So sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, which is we've been spoilt the last sort of few years, having one of the best, certainly. Well, Bumrah, Henry, is he first, best, second, having Matt Henry and coming over 2 out of the last 3 seasons. So yeah, they do find them occasionally, and I would guess not Matt Henry coming over later on in the season. Do we decide if he's available sort of after the 100?
It's well, maybe, but he's coming up. He'll be coming off a lot of cricket because he's got the IPL, then the Test series against England, and then the 100, and then it's whether he fancies a stint with us after that. I think is the only possibility.
I think he's Somerset through and through. Just put the contract in front of me.
You never know. You never know.
I'm sure he would.
I don't like his moustache very much.
He looks like, if you follow American Pool, he looks like the Pearl Strickland. Look that up. The Pearl Strickland's great. He's the most mad, mental pool player in the history of the game. He's an absolute lunatic. You look him up on YouTube. He's smashing his cue when he plays a bad shot. He's shouting at people. He looks just like him, Matt Henry with his new tash. So let's hope he hasn't inherited some of his characteristics. Looking ahead to Friday, then. What team are we going with? I mean, we assume that the 11 that took the field against Glamorgan, well, it was a 12 with Jake Ball not batting. Miguel Pretorius, you assume, would come into that. I believe he's here now. He arrived yesterday. Certainly touched down in the country yesterday, so you assume he's going to be in the equation. We've got a lot of talented batters, Gibbo, but what order do we put them in?
Well, I think the first question is who's going to open the innings, and I think the answer is Thomas from TKC.
Well, I like Tom Kohler-Cadmore opening against the Kookaburra ball in the middle of summer. I'm not so sure I like him opening against the Duke's ball in the first week of April.
Well, I think, again, I asked Jason about this, and you know, it's a left-hand, right-hand combination, and it's youth and experience combination as well.
Yeah.
I honestly don't see them opening with Archie Vaughan and Josh Thomas, two youngsters, in April against good seam attacks on greenish pitches. I think, they need some experience. How well TKC will do under these circumstances is another matter altogether. I think...
I mean, he was out playing a somewhat ambitious shot in the first innings, and then I think he got done between bat and pad in the second innings.
It's very much in the Somerset tradition. I mean, let Marcus Trescothick go out and take the attack from the enemy right from the start.
I mean, I know it's tinkering around with it again, but I'm just looking at that top six, and I just feel that TKC will give you more value, maybe down at 6, and Goldsworthy.
Well, who's going to go in first with Josh Thomas then?
Well, Goldsworthy? No?
I think, it's easy to forget. April is not a bad month for batting. It's kind of a myth that April is actually a good month for bowling, a bad month for batting. The batting averages actually go down as the season progresses. April, I think, is statistically the best month for batting. It may not be the case every single season, but largely it's a better month than people think for batting because the pitches are actually fresher then. I mean, it might also depend on the winter that we've just had and how green the pitches are, but I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with TKC opening in April. And I think there's good reasons to think that he should be one of the openers.
Yeah,
and
I just feel he just goes a bit hard. He just needs to be a little bit softer hands, a little bit, a bit more Tom Abel, just a bit more waiting for it. Like Joe Root, just really waiting for it to come to you. He just goes a little bit.
It's the way I play.
Well, yeah, I know it's the way he plays. It's a brilliant way, and against the Kookaburra, it's fantastic. I don't know. I just think he brings more value to the side, a bit more down the order. I think you don't. Are you gonna? It's difficult. He's a fantastic player, but I think you get more value from TKC down at sort of 4 or 5.
But then you're going with 2 inexperienced openers if you do that. That's the problem. And are we then leaving out Goldsworthy? Because it's then 2 out of Goldsworthy.
Maybe I'd put Goldsworthy up. I mean,
Goldsworthy's done really well in the middle order. Like, he's not had many chances in recent years. But, literally the last game we played, he scored a century at Chelmsford. And that's why he's been backed in the pre-season game to keep that role. Because I had kind of thought before the season that Goldsworthy might end up being squeezed out, but in the Glamorgan game, it was Vaughan who was squeezed out, and that might be the case for the first game of the season because Josh Thomas is the one who also just scored 86 against Essex in the last game he played. Vaughan didn't score any 50s opening last season. His only 50 was when he scored 80 down the order against Sussex. So it might be that logically Vaughan has to be the one who misses out, which would be a shame for him, and it wouldn't be a long-term thing, but right now it might be him that has to miss out, sadly.
Well, when I spoke to him yesterday, he said he wasn't going to do it again, but I'll go with Lewis Gregory, get yourself up at the top of the order, skipper. And you get TKC comes in lower down, you can, that's what then enabled Vaughan to go down and get a bit of confidence back, and you can include him as a side as a second spinner. Just gives the side a lot more balance, but I don't want to do it again. It is a tricky one. I mean, maybe TKC's got, the big shots out of his system now, he's just been working on just playing it a bit later.
No, I wouldn't say it.
I know.
There's a sort of Zach Crawley element to this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Not really. Potentially. So, I mean, I think we're as a group then we're sticking with Josh Thomas and Tom Kohler-Cadmore.
Yeah.
Lammonby at 3, Rue at 4. Rue's not. I spoke to Rue at media day. James Rue at media day. He's not for moving. He's likes it at 4. Abel at 5. Goswell 6. Gregory at 7, and then we've got the 4 bowlers. Well, Leach and Craig Overson are 2 definites. So the other 2 would be Miguel and Alfie Ogborn.
I would.
I think so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
As long as Migg's fit, But Ogborn definitely for me. Definitely Ogborn for me.
So so we're definitely picking up. So let's say Pretorius isn't fit. Who do we go for then? You would go what? You would be Josh Shaw, be Jake Ball, JT Langridge as an outside pick.
Jake Ball against his former county.
Yeah.
Would it be a bit of extra edge for him there? I don't know.
Possibly.
I think Ball's a better bowler than Shaw, I think. So I would go with him ahead of Shaw. But there'll be rotation, won't there? So Shaw will get games at some point. Really soon.
Good stuff. Not Sten, of course. Josh Tongue, not in their 11. Apparently he's being rested. Do we know when the last time he played was? Was it the last Ashes Test? He wouldn't have played a hell of a lot of cricket between now and then, and he sort of rested the first game.
Yeah, because Ben Duckett's being rested as well, isn't he? Despite having
Duckett's being rested as well, yeah. And it seems a while since the T20 World Cup, which I know he was in the squad, but he didn't play a massive part in. So I mean, that only.
I looked on the
completely bonkers. With the ECB saying they want to take more notice of county cricket and get the England players playing more county cricket, you get a batsman like Ben Duckett, who must be absolutely desperate to get out there and bat after sitting on the bench throughout the T20 World Cup, not getting any runs in the Ashes, desperate to make the case for him to keep his place in the England side, and they don't let him play. Absolutely balmy.
And I've just looked as well. Notts only play 2 games before their bye week as well. So they have 2 games, rest week, then 4 games. So you think that Duckett could easily play both of these first 2 because he'll play game 2, then have a week off anyway. So, I mean, we shouldn't be. We're not complaining, obviously, really, but.
Yeah, I looked on the Nottinghamshire website. They've got 31 players signed up to their men's squad. Now, some of them are blast only, but the scale of, talk about squad rotation. They've got a lot of people to think about in terms of who to squeeze into their team. So they've still got a pretty strong team even without Tongue and Duckett.
We're about 20, 21, aren't we? Which is the lowest for a
I would think so.
23, but that's including Sam's and
Meredith. Yeah. It's not a lot, is it? Sort of demonstrated by a conversation that if Pretorius isn't fit, you're down to Ball and I said Ball and Chain there. Ball and Josh Shaw, who are Ball was sort of well down the pecking order when Davey and Aldridge were in, so it is. Yeah, it does kind of focus the issue a little bit, but nobody's ever going to get injured ever again, and we'll be fine.
Joe Clark, we've seen Joe Clark score too many runs. In years gone by against us, haven't we? Hamid's another one who'll bat forever.
Hamid can be a little bit of a bunny for Craig early on, but then he just drops anchor. Craig can We sort of nips him out first 2 or 3 overs, but then it's if he gets past that, he's in. Yes, very much looking forward to it.
Well, the last 4 times we played knots have been absolute ball draws, haven't they? That's 2 at Taunton and 2 at Trent Bridge. So, I mean, we'll see how the game goes. I don't know if we'll be praying for a draw or not. So I don't know if it's going to be a good omen.
Yeah,
but,
the game of last season was the one where Matt Henry opened with TKC as a sort of a quasi night watchman, and then tried to put was it Liam Patterson White in the River Tone on the final
Yeah.
ball of the day? Yeah. Anyway, but I mean that goes back to our earlier point about Taunton pitches, because that was a relatively sedate and worry-free navigation towards the draw on day 4, wasn't it? Helmed by TKC. Was he not out 100? He definitely got a really sort of bigger 100.
Yeah, he got him.
Good stuff. What other news has been going on then? I think Lord Barber left since we last recorded, Peter. Obviously very sad news, very influential, very well-connected man, and certainly fought the club's cause in not looking for any reductions to Championship cricket, or indeed any cricket. Unfortunately, wasn't able to convince a number of his peers that was the way to go. But no, we did talk about this, didn't we, on our last one?
We did.
You made a joke that him and Lord Botham wouldn't be political soulmates, and in fact was the title of our last podcast. But I will. Are you? There's a rumor that you're throwing your name into the ring. Is that? It's a rumor that I've just started, but you know,
it's a rumor.
Is that true, Dan? Are you in the running to be the next chair?
Sorry, me?
Yeah. See, that it's switcheroo there. See, you thought I was talking about.
Oh, yeah, I totally am. Yeah, with all my business contacts, my networking skills.
ECB have emailed ECB on regular occasions about a myriad topics.
I have a lot of influence over them.
Absolutely. But joking aside, Peter, I guess the recruitment process is well underway.
Yeah, so the closing date, I think, is the 10th of April. Richard Bryce is the acting chair. And the plan is to try and have a new chair to take for approval to the AGM, which I think is end of June. So there's a bit of time to work it through, and in the meantime, Richard's holding the reins.
Good stuff. If any of our listeners are interested, please just email your CVs to recruitment@somersetcountycc.co.uk, and I'm sure you'll be invited in for an interview. I don't know. Is it down the wall on the wall in the job centre? Maybe not. Maybe it's more.
All that accountability and all that responsibility for zero money. It's a much better gig being the president, because you're accountable and responsible for nothing.
Well, it seems like it's an even more better gig being managing director of England men's cricket, because you get all the accountability and all the money, but actually none of the accountability and zero risk of being sacked. Fantastic.
There's a point.
Should we have 5 minutes on that? What a joke that's in. I mean, I'm sure every other podcast has jumped on it before we have, but I mean, how can...
Well, it's interesting the number of players that are speaking out the last few days, isn't it? People who feel that they must either feel that their bridges are burnt or the strength in numbers, but there's 5 or 6 of them now that have expressed concern about how they feel they've been treated. And I expect there are a fair few others who haven't actually played yet who might feel similar but couldn't or wouldn't say that, because there's an opportunity now to potentially be selected for the summer. But doesn't feel a very happy situation, does it?
I mean, I think he's just got no credibility left in that role, has he? He might have with the players, but certainly with the fans and the media. Everyone's looking at McCullum now and going, how are you still in a job? What are you still doing here? And he's either got to go completely against his principles, which is why he was picked for the job in the first place, is this, and he did, let's not get things wrong. He did give a new lease of life to sort of the senior players in the side who are coming towards the end of their careers, but he's not really done much to help the younger players in the team. I mean, no one's really gotten any better. I mean, our old mate Bash, he looked pretty much the same bowler he was when he went into the side. And then they've kind of dealt a massive blow to his confidence by taking him all the way around the world to Australia and not picking him when they should have done. And you got all the sort of the discipline issues. You can tell a Joe Root and a James Anderson, don't worry, boys, I trust you, don't have a curfew. Can't really do that to 21-year-old lads, because no matter how much cricketing talent you've got and how much of a good player you are still got the brain of a 21-year-old idiot. And if you are allowed to go out on the piss, you will go out on the piss.
A lot of the elements of McCullum's philosophy have been exposed, haven't they? And yet we're still persisting with him. None of the fans really want him to continue. None of the fans really want Rob Key to continue, but we are. And like this summer, we've got New Zealand and Pakistan, which are they easy series? New Zealand's not an easy series. Pakistan easier. It's one of the lower key summers. Every other summer is a lower key summer. Then the other summer's obviously Australia, India. Yeah. This is the lower key summer.
We've got India and Sri Lanka in white ball games as well.
Yeah,
I mean, India
but in the Test series, we might win both those Test series, and things might be like, oh, okay, we're okay again. But then the Ashes comes around next year, and then we could easily struggle again. But we might not though, because Australia aren't this. I know they just beat us, but like they're going to be even older then. They've got quite an old team, so. We might win accidentally in the Ashes, and McCullum might secure his legacy that way. But I don't know. I just feel like no one is satisfied with this going forward, and I think there's an element of the ECB just not being bothered. They just can't be bothered to make a change. They don't want to make the payout to McCullum to end his contract early. No. So yeah, it's just no one is happy at the moment.
It would be nice to feel that people are working collectively on improving the pathways between county cricket and Test cricket. I mean, that's what really bothers us and people like us, isn't it? That where's the connection and the progression from the sort of long form cricket which we are watching and the long form cricket that appears in international cricket? And it's been asserted to us for a considerable period now that these games are so completely different that you can select people on a kind of hunch or a whim and they will succeed at international cricket because there are people who really understand international cricket, and then there are other people who will play very nicely at county cricket, but that's their level and we'll leave them to it. And every bit of me feels that it can't be that simple and that detached, and it feels like there's an acknowledgement somewhere that they haven't quite got that right, and there's supposed to be this meeting next week between the directors of cricket and the ECB to talk about all of that, and who knows, that one would like to think that something constructive and a stronger sense of collective, endeavour and appreciation might come out of that, but who knows?
I'll tell you something that's just popped into my mind. Every so often when you go to watch cricket at Taunton, you'd get like a little bit of a Chinese whispers, oh, there's a selector here. I remember James Taylor being there one day. And I can't for the life of me in the last 3 or 4 years remember that happening. Sort of get in the room with selectors here, Luke Wright's here, whoever's here, Brendan McCullum's here or whatever. I think that goes back to your point, Peter, about this disconnect. I mean, McCullum's
Bashir was picked off the live stream, wasn't he? Didn't people say Bashir was picked because someone saw him on the live stream bowling to Alistair Cook?
It was on a YouTube clip.
It was. Yeah, I mean,
when he was bowling at Essex.
They have said there's a bit more to it than that, and I think there is. But if something that you see a player doing it doesn't matter where the source is. If you see somebody, your first introduction to a brilliant player is by what they do on a TikTok video or whatever, and then you go further. I think that's fair enough. I don't think they saw that and then emailed him a plane ticket to India on the back of it. But he did go to a Lions training camp and was spent a good few weeks out there being assessed along with a load of other English spin bowlers. But yeah, McCullum's on the other side of the world. I think he needs to win back hearts and minds as well as winning cricket matches. Possibly, be seen out among the shires. Possibly.
No.
Well,
talk.
Something that's strange is that we've known for ages that Luke Wright is stepping down as selector or has stepped down as selector, but they've only just put out the advertisement for the new selector, so they won't even be in place for the start of the season. Like, why were they not making sure we got to, if they want to connect county cricket and the England team again, why weren't they making sure the selector was in place for the first round of games? No, it's mad. They just don't engage their.
Catch up on TikTok. That's all they'll do.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember when you used to have selectors? You had with a chairman or chair
Well,
of selectors, and they go around the
um,
country and they'd report back on players.
apparently they do have scouts now, don't they? I just don't think they're really
Yeah.
well known. And the selection panel now is basically Key, McCullum, Stokes, and the selector. But the selector, i.e. Luke Wright, doesn't really have as much influence as the old sort of chief selector used to have. So it's different. There's no perfect way of doing selecting, I don't think. Every country uses different models of. Some countries have the captain have a vote, some don't. It changes all the time. But
There hasn't really been a golden age of English cricket, Test cricket selection, has there? I mean, there's some horror stories from back in the day when they used to have selection committees who would. I'm not sure they saw very much more cricket than they see now, but they had very good long lunches at Lord's and then picked half the team from Surrey and half the team from Yorkshire.
I forget whose book it was in. Is they picked Monty Lynch because someone said Lynch, Gatting said yes, and it turned out he thought they said lunch. So that is the apocryphal story of how Monty Lynch once ended up playing for England. So. But yeah, I mean, it's a common theme in all the autobiographies you read. Generally, Mr. Raymond Illingworth is at the heart of most of those. But yeah.
Talking of Gatting, have you seen that? Have you seen that a whole load of Middlesex players have written a letter to Middlesex complaining about how their county has been run, and a whole lot of Lancashire players have written to Lancashire complaining about how Lancashire's being run, and a whole lot of Sussex players have written to Sussex complaining about how they're being run. So I'm not quite sure what the ex-Somerset players are up to, but a vote of confidence from them would be welcome.
Well, I think Andy Cleve is the chief complainant about, but that's generally confined to the lack of recruitment of a second overseas. Is this where you're fishing for compliments and you want to sort of say actually you're very content with how the club's being run at the moment?
No, I just thought it's interesting, isn't it? How and these are particularly Middlesex and Sussex. These are counties that are suffering as a consequence of being non-100 counties, I think, and some of the kind of pressures that they are now facing and the difficulties and challenges are being seen by a whole lot of people in the game who perhaps haven't been as quick to understand some of the ways in which the tectonic plates are shifting in cricket.
It's funny because from what I sort of gather, it's that the Middlesex and Sussex members, they're suffering because they're not 100 county, and that's why the members are pissed off. Whereas Lancashire is a bit the opposite way around. Is the members are pissed off that they are 100 county, and that's all the board seem to care about is 100 and hotels, and not the fact that we're in Division 2. What are you doing to get us out of Division 2?
That's true. Yeah, I think you're right. But there's a lot of unhappiness in a number of places in the run-up to the season, which, we're feeling a bit more buoyant than that, aren't we?
I think we are, and I think we also need to recognise that as not just fans of Somerset and members of Somerset, but of all the other counties, fight like fuck to keep your mutual status so you do have a voice. Absolutely resist any changes to demutualise your counties, put them in private ownership, because that is really the start of the slippery slope. By the power. I think we only had the one question from Andy Cleve, which we've dealt with for the listeners' questions this week. I feel like there's something in the back of my mind that we've forgotten to talk about. And I cannot remember what it is.
There's three things which I think have come up since the last podcast, which we've not talked about. So the first thing kind of relates to what we were just saying.
The last podcast was yesterday, Dan.
Oh, sorry. I have listened to that. I meant the last podcast.
Don't get used to these daily podcasts, kids. They're not going to be good. Do you remember we did them every night for the Bob Willis Trophy?
Oh, yeah.
We were all locked in our houses and we couldn't do anything else apart from look about the cricket that we'd watched that day. Yeah, sorry, Dan.
Yeah, so the competition that's not be named auction obviously happened, and just to talk about auction before it happened, and just in relation to the One Day Cup, we've lost 8 players. So basically, it's the guys we expect to lose plus the 2 Roos, which is going to be a big blow to our chances in the One Day Cup. That's our number 4 and 5 ripped out of the side, but it's going to create opportunities for other guys to go up the order. Josh Thomas and Finn Hill will have more responsibility this year, so hopefully they can take on that mantle if we're going to try and look at it positively. And we obviously don't have a wicket keeper now, and I know at the media day they were asked about that, and they're going to cross that bridge when they come to it by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
so that'd be fun.
I mean,
yeah,
Finn Hill was keeping to Archie Vaughan during the breaks in play at Glamorgan. He wasn't just mitting; he was properly kitted out in keeping gear. And there's also the lad Ben Church, who's on the academy and has been he's kept the 2s in a few games as well. So he's obviously going to come into contention. I would probably rather go with an established keeper, somebody who's kind of on the pathway, rather than trying to make Finn Hill, who's been on a bit of off spin as well, into a keeper. Obviously, I would prefer really that the 100 hadn't stolen 4 of our keepers, but I think my coming out of retirement is a pipe dream. I don't think I'm pretty much on the radar, which is very disappointing as far as
maybe they'll do a competition for publicity, like
a cricket star competition hosted by Pete Frigo. Just £5 a ticket. You could be the next Somerset keeper.
Exactly. Maybe if we're out of the tournament and we have a dead rubber last at home to Lancashire, it was the UR Somerset match, isn't it? It's like that they kind of fudged it with the theme.
You literally are Somerset. They'll chuck the beach balls into the crowd or something, or whoever's got one left. Wasn't there a manager who was like they'd already got promoted back in the football league? He just brought himself on as a sub at the 94th minute of a game. I can't remember.
Rings a bell.
Rings a bell. But yeah, I mean, some of the prizes as well. I think now it's the auction. I mean, so James went for 31 grand. Thomas went for 80. While he was in it changes from what story you read. It was either a chemistry lesson or an economics lesson that he was in, and he was naughty. James Rue had his phone on him in a lesson watching Thomas Rue. Sorry, naughty Thomas Rue. Have you got detention for that? Reason for detention: watching myself get an £80,000 contract in a competition that should not be named. But surprisingly, Lewis Gregory is the absolute bargain of all time at 55k.
It's just auction dynamics. Auctions are weird. Like you shouldn't read too much into the prices of players. It doesn't mean that so and so is better than another player because they got more money. It's just that the players that are available at the time, if there's a bit of a bidding war, like you shouldn't read too much into it, I don't think.
But still, poor old Lewis Gregory's got wife and kids to feed. Thomas Rue's only 18. Come on,
55
he's having a testament benefit.
Somebody, the poor professional cricketers. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, we're down to 8, and with the squad being shrunk as it is, it does rather point the One Day Cup team to the bare bones. Gibbo, who would your One Day Cup skipper be?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I will. There's no spoilers, but at media,
Jake Ball.
At media day, Lewis sat in the captain's position, so we know that it's not going to be him.
Jake Ball.
Jack Leach is another option. I don't know if Jack's ever fancied being. Has Jack ever captained the side before? We had that season where we had about 9 captains, didn't we? Max Waller did it. Josh Davey did it. Greener did it.
Leach has never captained the first team. He has captained the second team, I'm pretty sure, on the odd occasion.
I mean, my left field bet. I'll go for Alfie Ogborn might be. Bet.
I think
he's got a good character, Alfie. I like the way
but he's very young.
When you talk to him.
Very young. I think he needs to concentrate on his book.
Tom Abel. I'm going to look now at the age that Alfie Ogborn is. He's not going to be. I think he's like a year or two older than you think he is, Alfie. So Alfie is 22 years, 260 days. His birthday's the 15th of July. So that's not going to be far off what Tom Abel was.
Tom was 23, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, so it's got to be more or less.
I think Vaughan and Lammonby are also candidates.
Yeah, Vaughan's obviously done it for England under-19s. Peter, who's your? I mean, we're just you can tell
Yeah,
we're running the clock down a little bit now. We're talking about.
I don't know. I haven't thought of it. I'd quite like a few weeks of just kind of wandering around the ground and chatting to a few of them and thinking about
Yeah,
it with that thought in mind, because we don't need to decide that. Not that. So
exactly.
I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? It worked well for Ben Green. It worked well for Sean Dixon. I think we've shown
What
good
in that
judgment
they've
in
now
who
left?
we've. Well, I
You
suppose
said
they've
it's some sort
left,
of
but
poison
they took
Dallas.
they did it. I think they both did
They
it
did lead the
well.
side very well. Yeah.
It
I
could be
mean, we
good for
could get an open
Lammonby.
season. MS Tony's still playing. You never know.
God, but yeah,
Unlikely.
he doesn't do much outside of the IPL, so he will be free.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, he can't even. I think it's been admitted that he basically can't bat for very long because he's that unfit. Like not not that he's not unfit, but like he's just so old and his joints are creaking, so he just can barely bat. It's astonishing that he's still an IPL player. Anyway,
Hey, I share his pain. Right. Any other business then? That was
there's
it.
two
Just that
things.
one.
Two
Was
things.
another. Oh, come on.
Related to the women's team. So the first thing is that we named our leadership group, which obviously Luff's been confirmed as captain, and we've, in a very Australian manner, with Aaron Osborne as head coach, we've named joint vice captains, which is Niamh Holland and Emma Corney. No, not Emma Corney. Bex Rogers. So I'm guessing Holland will be first choice vice captain. She did captain a few times last season, didn't she, when Luff was injured? During the blast. The other thing is obviously we
We'll have a
signed
bit
an
more of a
overseas
chat
player.
about the women. Their first game isn't it's the 11th of April, isn't it? So that'll be next Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yorkshire, I think, don't they? So we'll
Yeah.
we'll have a good old chat about the women next time round.
Did we want to mention about the overseas player we signed, or should we leave that?
Let's do it.
Yeah, just Annika Leroyd, who I had to research her to find out how good she was. But I think she's a solid signing. Like, she's not an international player, so she won't be taken by Australia. But she's sort of on the fringes, plays for Australia A, has a pretty good record in domestic cricket. She's basically Fran Wilson's replacement as a top order batter. She's not had the best seasons, it has to be said, in the 50 over competition in Australia, but across the last few years, she's sort of been one of the top players over there. So she should be a solid signing. I think she's arriving for the second game of the season. So, yeah, happy to have her.
Good. Yeah, we'll have a good old chat about the prospects for Somerset women next week ahead of their first game against Yorkshire, as well as hopefully chatting about a Somerset win against Notts in the Championship. Do we have any other business chats before we knock this one on the head? Good stuff.
No.
I'm going to be there on Friday and possibly Monday if there's any chance of a result. I can't make it over the weekend, unfortunately. So I'll catch up with you all then. Just remains for me to say thank you very much for listening. Best of luck to Lewis Gregory and the boys as they kick off their bid for a first ever county championship against the reigning champions Nottingham at Premier Associates County Ground on Friday. Hopefully see you all there. And thanks for listening and good night.